Karen Grassle's story has always been intertwined with one of television's most beloved families, yet behind the warmth of the screen, her own life held shadows few knew. At 82, she has stepped forward to reveal the pain she endured while working alongside Michael Landon, a revelation that has stunned fans and left many in tears. For decades, she carried memories she could scarcely share, moments that shaped her both personally and professionally. Now, after years of silence, Karen's voice breaks through, offering a glimpse into struggles that were hidden behind the comforting smiles of Little House on the Prairie. What she endured challenges the idyllic image of the show and casts a new light on the cost of Hollywood stardom. Early career and the hidden struggles. Karen Grassle's journey into acting began long before she became the motherly heart of Little House on the Prairie. Born in 1942, she grew up with a passion for performance, studying theater with dedication, and appearing on stage in regional productions that honed her craft. Her early career was marked by steady effort and quiet resilience, often navigating the competitive and unpredictable world of television auditions. By the early 1970s, Grassle had begun to appear in guest roles on popular series, gradually earning recognition for her talent and professionalism. Her breakthrough, however, would come when she was cast as Caroline Ingalls, a role that would define her career and embed her into the cultural memory of an entire generation. Despite the warmth she brought to the screen, the behind-the-scenes reality was far more complicated. Working alongside Michael Landon, a man celebrated for his charisma and creative drive, Grassle faced pressures that went beyond the script. Colleagues later described Landon as a perfectionist whose demands could be intense, but Grassle's revelations suggest that some of the challenges were deeply personal. For years, she remained silent, aware that speaking out might not only jeopardize her career but also challenge the public's cherished image of the show. The veneer of idyllic family life on set masked a more complex dynamic, and Karen often found herself navigating moments of discomfort and imbalance. Her professional dedication never wavered, yet the emotional toll was significant. Grassle poured herself into her portrayal of Caroline, striving to maintain a sense of authenticity and care, even while managing her own feelings of unease. The pressures of long shooting schedules, combined with the intensity of working with a co-star whose personality could shift between genial and demanding, created an environment where personal boundaries were tested. For decades, Karen internalized these experiences, balancing her need for professional success with the quiet struggle of maintaining personal integrity and dignity on a set that, to the outside world, seemed flawless, if on set and the silence that lasted decades. Once Karen Grassle became Caroline Ingalls, her life changed in ways few could imagine. The role brought fame, a devoted fan base, and the stability of a long-running show from 1974 to 1983. But behind the cameras, the atmosphere was often far from the comforting family life portrayed on screen. Michael Landon, celebrated as a creative force and central figure of Little House on the Prairie, exerted a control over the set that extended beyond directing or acting. Colleagues described a man capable of warmth and charm, but Grassle's later revelations indicate that certain interactions left her deeply uncomfortable, testing her emotional endurance on a daily basis. For decades, Grassle carried these experiences quietly. She understood that speaking out during the show's run could have jeopardized her career, alienated fans, and undermined the legacy of a program that millions loved. The culture of Hollywood at the time offered few protections for actors in vulnerable positions, particularly women, and the weight of public perception often silenced those who needed to be heard. Karen's silence was a survival mechanism, a way to maintain professional dignity while grappling privately with the challenges she faced on set. Life on set was a constant balancing act. Grassle devoted herself fully to her character, investing emotional energy into each scene, each family moment, and each storyline. Yet the juxtaposition of performing maternal perfection on screen while managing personal discomfort created a tension she carried in private. Her colleagues and friends later remarked on her remarkable professionalism, noting how she maintained composure under pressure and preserved the warmth of Caroline Ingalls even in moments when she felt anything but calm. The emotional strain of these years left lasting effects. Grassle's ability to compartmentalize, separating the demands of the set from her personal experiences, was both a survival tactic and a testament to her inner strength. Her eventual decision, decades later, to finally speak candidly about what transpired with Landon is a pivotal moment in her life story. It represents not only a breaking of silence, but also a reclaiming of her voice, a public acknowledgement of a reality that fans never saw, and a personal step toward closure that had been long overdue. The emotional toll and personal sacrifices. Karen Grassle's experiences on the set of Little House on the Prairie left scars that went far beyond the camera lens. While millions of fans saw a caring, patient, and unwavering Caroline Ingalls, Grassle herself often wrestled with anxiety, self-doubt, and the silent burden of navigating a workplace where boundaries were sometimes blurred. The pressure to maintain professionalism and warmth for the sake of the show came at a personal cost, as she constantly suppressed feelings of discomfort and fear of reprisal. These unspoken challenges shaped her daily existence, influencing both her mental health and her private relationships. Away from the set, Karen sought solace in her personal life, attempting to cultivate spaces where she could feel safe and in control. Yet the emotional weight of her experiences often followed her home. She described the difficulty of separating work from self, the challenge of pretending everything was normal when inside she was grappling with a mixture of apprehension, frustration, and helplessness. Over time, these pressures contributed to a growing sense of isolation, as she became increasingly careful about whom she trusted and what she revealed. Friends and family were aware of her struggles only in glimpses. The full truth remained locked within her for decades. The sacrifices Karen made extended beyond emotional boundaries. She often had to decline personal opportunities or social interactions to maintain her focus on the demanding shooting schedule. Every choice came with trade-offs. Career advancement could clash with her sense of integrity, and public image often outweighed private well-being. This constant negotiation between duty to her craft and care for herself left her drained, yet resolute in her commitment to the character that audiences adored. It was a silent endurance, the type that goes unnoticed by viewers but is deeply felt by the performer. Breaking the silence, Karen speaks out. After decades of keeping her experiences private, Karen Grassle finally made the decision to speak publicly. At 82, she recognized the importance of reclaiming her narrative, of articulating what had happened without letting fear or shame dictate her story. The decision was not sudden. It had been years in the making, shaped by quiet reflection, therapy, and the encouragement of close friends who urged her to honor her own truth. When she stepped forward, she spoke with a mixture of resolve and vulnerability, recounting how her early years on Little House on the Prairie were overshadowed by actions from Michael Landon that left her feeling powerless, uneasy, and, at times, deeply hurt. Karen described the impact of these experiences on her sense of self and professional confidence. She had trusted the camaraderie of the cast, the support of the crew, and the image of a caring mentor, only to discover that appearances could be deceptive. The words and behaviors she encountered, she revealed, were often subtle yet persistent, eroding her comfort and sense of security. For many years, she feared speaking out would not only damage her reputation, but also diminish the legacy of a show she cherished. This internal conflict between protecting her career and protecting herself was a silent struggle that defined her time on set. When Karen's revelation became public, the reaction was immediate and emotional. Fans expressed a mix of sorrow, anger, and empathy, many commenting that they had never imagined that behind the warmth and kindness of Caroline Ingalls there had been moments of such pain. Letters, social media posts, and interviews poured in, highlighting the emotional resonance of her courage. People related not only to her specific experiences, but also to the broader themes of speaking truth to power, the consequences of staying silent, and the resilience required to endure hidden challenges. Karen's account also sparked conversations within the entertainment industry about the treatment of women, the responsibilities of those in positions of authority, and the importance of creating safe and respectful work environments. Colleagues and younger actors reflected on the lessons her story imparted, recognizing that silence, while sometimes protective in the short term, can perpetuate harm over decades. Through her willingness to share, Karen offered a roadmap for understanding, healing, and ultimately, empowerment. Fans' reactions and lasting legacy. When Karen Grassle's revelations reached the public, the response was immediate, heartfelt, and overwhelmingly emotional. Fans, many of whom had grown up idolizing Caroline Ingalls as the epitome of maternal strength and moral integrity, were suddenly confronted with a more complex human reality behind the character they loved. Social media platforms lit up with messages of support, admiration, and sorrow. Some wrote about the pain of realizing that even the people we admire most are not immune to hardship, while others reflected on their own experiences, finding courage in Karen's honesty. The resonance of her story was both personal and collective, bridging generations who had watched Little House on the Prairie in the 1970s and 1980s and those discovering the show years later. Critics and journalists highlighted the bravery it took for Karen to speak after so many decades, noting that her courage extended beyond personal vindication. It had become a beacon for others who had suffered in silence. Commentators pointed out that her story challenged the romanticized narratives often associated with Hollywood and reinforced the importance of consent, respect, and accountability in the workplace. Forums, podcasts, and talk shows dissected her account, carefully balancing recognition of Michael Landon's professional genius with acknowledgement of the harm she endured. Karen's narrative encouraged a more nuanced conversation about power dynamics in the entertainment industry, particularly the experiences of women working alongside influential male figures. Fans' reactions were not limited to words alone. Many created tributes, essays, and videos honoring Karen's bravery, emphasizing that her willingness to speak out did not diminish the joy the show had brought into their lives, but rather deepened their appreciation for her resilience. Some recounted how Little House on the Prairie had shaped their understanding of family, morality, and empathy, and how learning about Karen's struggles offered an even more profound lesson: that true courage often exists off-screen, in moments unseen and uncelebrated. For Karen herself, the response was a mixture of relief and poignancy. She read the letters and messages, often moved to tears by the kindness of strangers and the support of longtime fans. It was a reminder that, despite decades of secrecy and the emotional weight she had carried alone, her story mattered. Her experiences were validated not through fame or awards, but through human connection, the empathy, understanding, and compassion of those who felt her pain and admired her strength. Moving forward, Karen's message to the world. After decades of silence, Karen Grassle's decision to speak publicly was more than a personal revelation. It was a conscious step toward healing and empowerment. At 82, she recognized that keeping the truth buried had only prolonged her own suffering, and by sharing her experiences, she could reclaim a part of her life that had been overshadowed by fear, shame, and the weight of secrecy. Karen often reflected that while the past could not be changed, she could shape how it was remembered, both by herself and by the world. In interviews and public appearances following her disclosures, she spoke with a mix of vulnerability and resolve, acknowledging the complexity of human relationships and the profound impact of unspoken trauma. Karen's message to the industry and to her fans was clear. No amount of professional admiration or historical success justifies mistreatment or exploitation. She emphasized the importance of setting boundaries, speaking up, and supporting others who may be trapped in situations of abuse or coercion. Her words carried the weight of decades of lived experience, resonating not only with fellow actors but also with anyone who had endured similar challenges in silence. Karen's story became a touchstone for discussions on consent, respect, and accountability, reinforcing that even figures long idolized for their public personas are human and deserving of dignity. Despite the emotional toll of recounting her experiences, Karen found solace in the support she received. Letters from fans, colleagues, and fellow survivors served as reminders that vulnerability can foster connection, understanding, and solidarity. She often spoke about the unexpected joy of hearing from people whose lives had been touched by her honesty, noting that these connections validated her decision to break decades of silence. Karen's openness also sparked renewed interest in her career, prompting retrospectives on her work, deeper explorations of her contributions to television, and thoughtful recognition of her influence both on-screen and off. Moving forward, Karen Grassle has embraced a quieter, more deliberate life, choosing projects and appearances that reflect her values rather than public expectation. She spends time mentoring young actors, advocating for safer workplace practices, and continuing to share her story on her own terms. Her resilience and clarity in confronting the past have allowed her to transform personal pain into collective learning, showing that even in the face of adversity, strength and dignity can endure. Through it all, Karen's legacy has expanded beyond the iconic character of Caroline Ingalls. She has become a symbol of courage, a living testament to the power of reclaiming one's voice, and a reminder that honesty, even late in life, can inspire healing and change. Her journey underscores that the true measure of a life in the spotlight is not only in the roles one plays, but in the integrity, courage, and humanity one demonstrates, often away from the cameras and the applause. Karen Grassle's story reminds us that even behind the brightest smiles and the most beloved roles, real struggles can remain hidden for decades. What she endured and finally shared teaches us the importance of listening, believing survivors, and speaking our truth, no matter the years that have passed. What do you think about Karen finally breaking her silence after all these years? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth behind the stars.